Hey there. Apparently Natalie has made it safe for us to talk about our battle wounds. But it's not the wounds that are important, it's the lessons you learn, because the wounds fade over time, but the lessons last a lifetime. I'm going to give you a few examples from personal experience, and I'll try to show you the wounds, though with the camera, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see them well, and you probably will never have a chance in hell of actually seeing this wound. The first one is this little, you're not going to be able to see this, but it's like a little kind of a half crescent, a little white crescent next to my finger there. That's where they stitched my head together when I was 4 years old. And the lesson you learn from that is, if you happen to be 4 years old and you have a new tricycle, and there's a little step on the back of the tricycle where you can step on the tricycle to get to the seat, and one of your friends wants to ride the tricycle and suggests to you that it would be fun if you stood on that step behind the tricycle and held on as he pedaled. If a friend asks you to do that, say no. Just say no. The next lesson I learned has to do with this wound over here. And this is going to be a little tough one to see. Alright, take a look at my thumb. Towards the top, you'll notice a part of skin that's a little bit grayish. Right up here, right around there. It's a little gray. Kind of like the color of a pencil, the tip of a pencil. And this was I was about 10 years old, and to be honest, I don't exactly remember what happened except that there was, the lead part of the pencil was buried in my finger quite a bit. The point is, kids, if you got your sharpened pencils in a bag, don't jam your hand in there. Go grab the pencil gently. It's a good lesson to learn. Now, the next lesson has to do with, you can kind of see I have a few scars on my nose. One is kind of right between my eyes. It kind of looks like a white line. You can kind of see that, and you look a little bit below it. Like there's one here, and there's another one down here. Not the dark part, but the light part next to it, where it looks like the skin is kind of cut out. Hard to see, but you can make out those two kind of whitish lines. If you happen to be 15 years old and you're playing wiffle ball with your friends, and you strike out your friend to end the game, and he decides it might be fun to throw the bat at you, just throw it at you playfully, and the bat happens to be kind of old and has lots of frayed edges at one end. If that happens, duck. Just duck. And speaking of baseball, if you are about 15 years old, and actually I should show you this first of all before I even go into the story. You get to take a look at my knees now. Alright, my knees are pretty much covered with scars. No big like surgical scars or anything, but pretty much every inch of my knee is a scar. I mean, it's all scar tissue. Every inch of the knee is it's been scarred so many times, it's just one big piece of scar tissue. And you're not going to be able to see it, just take my word for it. Point is though, if you're about 15 years old and you're riding with your friends to go play some baseball during the summer, and you're riding on your bicycle, and you're holding the handlebars, and you're holding the bat in your right hand as you hold the handlebar. Make sure the bat doesn't get anywhere near the spokes of your front wheel, because if it does, and you happen to be traveling at top speed at the moment, you may find yourself flying over the handlebars and hitting the ground with both knees and both elbows at the same time, skidding along the pavement for about 10 feet, and then getting up in front of all your friends and trying to pretend that that just hadn't happened. Just trying to pass it off as no big deal. Walking back to the bike and getting on, pretending that nothing happened, even though all your friends can see you are bleeding profusely from all 4 limbs. So once again, baseball bat, spokes of a bike, not a good thing to have together. Now you think by that point I would have learned a little something, but I hadn't learned a lesson yet. I mean, let's face it, if you've seen my videos, sometime shortly after that I did manage to staple my thumbs together, which was not a good experience. But the biggest lesson I learned happened a couple of years later. Happened when I was 20 years old, and that's about 18 years ago now. God, when I was doing an engineering internship at a chemical plant. And I'll kind of show you, take a look at this finger. It looks pretty innocent. You'll see my fingernail, there's a part at the bottom of the fingernail that's kind of white. The reason why that part is kind of white near the bottom, like, right down here, near the bottom of it, of the fingernail, is that fingernail kind of fell off and had to grow back together, and that's where the pieces of the fingernail cross, and that mark's been there one way or the other for the last 18 years. The lesson you learned from that is the following. If you are a young engineering student and you are doing an internship at a chemical company, at a chemical plant, and that chemical plant is very, very proud of its safety record. They have signs up saying, oh, we haven't had an accident in 10 years. If you're working for them and you want to make a good impression, you want to make sure one thing doesn't happen. You want to make sure when you're in the control room, and the control room is this big room where they control the chemical plant, and it has these big ass, what they call blast doors. So, if there's an explosion of people, the control plant will be protected. And the blast door is solid steel and about a foot thick, probably weighs more than a ton. If you're in that situation and you have to close the blast door as you're entering the room, and you're pushing it closed with your right hand, make sure you know where you're closing with your left hand actually. You're pushing it closed with your left hand. Make sure you know where your right hand is, particularly your right little finger. Make sure that when you're closing the door, your finger doesn't wander over to the other part of the door where the hinges are, where there's a little gap that opens up when the door is open, and the gap gradually disappears as the door is closed. Make sure your finger is not there, because finger versus a ton of steel wins. And considering their safety record, when you ask for medical attention, when you ask for a doctor, you're going to be given a Band-Aid. That's a good lesson to know. So in any case, that's my story. Those are my lessons, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.